ChatGPT global market share slid down 46.4% by the end of May 2026. Anthropic is really trying to knock ChatGPT off its crown anyway for a while in both the news and in price. Good morning and welcome back to the Automated TV. I'm your host, Attack Low. Thank you for all the subscribers. We've got 2 more as of last night, so I think we're now up to 155. It's absolutely fantastic. We're on the road to 200, sorry. And I don't think we'll get there this weekend, but let's definitely strive for our 200. And like I said, after tomorrow's broadcast, that will be our last one for 2 weeks. We're going to hit a pause. We're going to redesign the studio. We're going to move. You're going to see lots of stuff, lots of big changes as well, rebranding. So just to let you know, again, to remind you, when we're not here, the distance makes the heart grow fonder. So definitely take a look at our old episodes and keep supporting us. So let's get into the news. First up, we have news about ChatGPT. That's right, ChatGPT. So, first things first, it is not good for ChatGPT and Sam Altman. But it took about 3.5 years, but finally ChatGPT just slipped from its absolute monopoly on the AI world. According to the new State of AI report, dropped by analytics firm Sensor Tower and reported by TechCrunch, ChatGPT global market share slid down 46.4% by the end of May 2026. ChatGPT has comfortably held over 50% actually of the entire market as recent as in January. So in just a few months, it slipped off. The crown slipped off OpenAI's head. So look, not all is unwell in the realm of ChatGPT. ChatGPT still boasts over 1.1 billion monthly active users, and it's actually the fastest application in human history to cross that billion user milestone. However, we've talked about this in the last couple of days as well, right? With lots of news, Anthropic dominating the headline. Perplexity is actually the third wheel. But with Gemini as well cutting prices, we've had these price wars. You know, Gemini and Anthropic is really trying to knock ChatGPT off its crown anyway for a while in both the news and in price, and I'm sure other things in fundraising as well. So what does that really mean? 2 major rivals are eating OpenAI's lunch right now. So Gemini has 27.2% market share with 662 million monthly users. Look, but Google is baking Gemini into its apps, right? So it has an inherent advantage right there. It's not organic growth, but it is structural growth that it has had, and it's built up for the last many, many years. Anthropic's Claude holding down 10.3% market share with 245 million monthly users. But, 13% of Claude's users are paying subscribers. So that is a big deal. And I don't know what that is. Well, it says that it's the highest paid conversion rate in the entire industry. So obviously it's better than ChatGPT here. So Grok, Perplexity, DeepSeek, and Meta AI are sitting at the kids table, scraping about less than 5% market share. Consumers are on track to spend a staggering $4.2 billion on AI apps in the first half of 2026 alone. And users only spent $1.83 billion in the first half of 2025. So definitely about a 3 to 4 times difference between the spending on AI apps alone. So that justifies the growth and that justifies the excitement. There's real money flowing into these apps. So that makes 100% sense. So, the way I think about it is it's real dollars going into it. Is ChatGPT losing this crown? 100%. Is Gemini going to eat its lunch? We'll see. It has inherent advantages baked into it, right? Because of all these apps into it. Facebook also has advantages as well, but I do think Google probably has the best shot to usurp ChatGPT from its crown. But having said that, look, it is pretty sticky nonetheless, right? So it will be a while. To some degree, it's much ado about nothing. But as long as ChatGPT is actually, still in the lead, firmly in the lead, and really still trying to grow. But if not, then there will be real issues Yeah, and rivals still chipping away. I mean, we're still early. If you take a look and compare it to social media, you had MySpace coming into the picture, and then Facebook taking its crown. You had AOL Internet, and now that's no more as well. So competition is a real thing. Who we have and who we have in the beginning may not be who we have in the end. Netscape Navigator was probably the big browser of the day now is Google Chrome, right? So it does come to this. It is what it is there. So you just have to keep monitoring and see what's going on, and don't rest on your laurels. Okay, our next piece of news, we have Anthropic versus the Trump administration. So we're back on this topic. We covered this in our broadcast yesterday and said perhaps the real culprit is Amazon. So maybe there's more to that than meets the eye. So why being called too dangerous is actually great for business. Let's see. So the federal feud has reached a boiling point. The government doubled down the panic by dropping some export control directive, which we talked about yesterday. Let's see. According to brand new corporate spending data from fintech platform Ramp, which tracks over 70,000 real-world businesses, Anthropic's share of business AI subscriptions officially hit 41% in May. That means they officially nudged past OpenAI's 39.5% for the first time in history. Ramp's lead economist, Ara Karazian, Armenian actually last name, broke it down for TechCrunch point blank, explaining that this entire government's controversy is actually a massive net positive for the company. Quote unquote, Anthropic's best month on record as far as business adoption was the month that the Department of Defense labeled them as supply chain risks, unquote. Quote, there's a lot of aura that comes through the model specifically being named too dangerous to use, unquote. All right. And the facts are they just crossed an astronomical 65 billion in fresh funding. Valuation is a near $1 trillion valuation. They found confidential IPO, paperwork to go public, and they actually reported the first ever profitable quarter. So yes, we talked about this before as well. I said some of the reasons why, they were labeled too powerful or too dangerous mythos, and this was like, I think last week's broadcast or 2 weeks ago, was perhaps a bit of marketing. So I've been around the block. I know how these things work, right? It's either marketing for fundraising or marketing in general. I know how these things work. So when it's too dangerous, I've said that there's no way. They've got safety teams. The safety team should have complied and made sure that it wasn't too dangerous. And if it was too dangerous, there's something's wrong. They're not doing their job. There's no way it could be. We've known about the issue for a long time. So perhaps it really is about marketing and fundraising at the end of the day, because that's the way they need. They need the hype. It's a continuum. They need the hype to make things happen. And that's inherently what this is, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're a capitalist society, right? And I saw this on X the other day as well. We're a capitalist society. And what that also means in a capitalist society, look, you need hype to build these companies up. It's an inherent form of capitalism there. Again, it is what it is, right? For that to happen. So didn't buy into it. I knew it was about that. But let's see if I don't really know whether this was the reason why they did it, whether they had other issues or not. I don't know. I don't think they would. I just think probably Dario just said, look, it's good marketing, so why don't we let it stand? But usually that's where these things happen. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. So there are calls for Dario. It's a step down. Investors are not happy. But if you look into that, they've got arguments to stay on course, right? Under Dario's leadership, they've got the valuation, they've got the fundraising, they're eating on market share. Now is not the time to pause this, would be the argument I would make if I were Dario as well to investors. If some investors are not happy with, this kerfuffle with the Trump administration, that's what I would say. Let's not let up on the lead. We've got the lead. ChatGPT's faltering, which is also not the case as well, but it's faltering. And so therefore, now is not the time to let up the aggression and the push for first. Okay, on to the next piece of news. We've got around the AI block, actually one of my favorite topics and sections of our broadcast. So SpaceX to acquire Cursor for 60 billion stock days after blockbuster IPO. I saw that coming into the fore on X, and we've got a TechCrunch article here, and let's see, it had agreed to acquire AI startup Cursor in 60 billion stock deal just a few days and less than 2 months after announcing a tie-up between the two. It's meant to help SpaceX's AI division, built around Elon Musk's AI company, which SpaceX merged with earlier this year, to catch up to major AI labs. And we just talked about it, right? Grok is really under 5% market share. SpaceX's AI division is in the midst of a restructuring after running into repeated controversy, including non-consensual deepfakes as well. And we talked about it, but I did not want to cover this because, one, it's not good on camera. Two, I disagree with it fundamentally. And that's something I don't like about Grok. So they were on track to close a $2 billion funding round from the likes of Andreessen, Thrive, and NVIDIA, which would have valued the coding startup at $50 billion. So they've acquired it. So great on them. Let's see if this. Oh, all of Musk's co-founders and XAI had left the company by the end of March. Okay, all right. So I don't know. Let's see if it works. These things with these acquisitions, right? It's really all about culture. It's your standard M&A deal. It's really not about, you buy stuff for IP. Yes, some of it. You buy, and the founders just want to get out of there and want to start another company. So I guess you do buy for the IP. You buy for the employees. And you buy for the culture. So, Elon had to make sure that there was a great cultural fit and they could really take over. And that he could deal with this particular acquisition and fold it into XAI. It's a plug and play rather than, rebuilding the company to some degree, right? I mean, he's overpaid to some degree for Cursor because it was a competitive bid. So let's see how it will be. I don't count out Elon because he can say, in the stratosphere in terms of valuations and love longer than I can stay solvent, but I can see fundamentally things would not work in the real world, right? It would not work. So let's just see. The jury's still out on this acquisition. All right, on to the next piece. Justice Department backs XAI and NAACP lawsuit over data center pollution. The agency argues that XAI's operations are integral to U.S. military operations. Department of Justice are asking the court to dismiss this lawsuit the NAACP filed against XAI in April. The organization sued XAI for allegedly operating this Engadget article. Thank you very much. For allegedly operating methane gas turbines to power its Colossus 2 data center in South Memphis without the proper permit. As for injunction, the Justice Department has submitted a filing to the court siding with the Elon Musk company, arguing that its operations are integral to U.S. military operations, including the Iran war. All right, see? The United States, if it falls under national security, even before this, right? I mean, you're the United States military member. I'm an Army member. If it falls under this, if it falls in the military, then you become okay. Everything can be justified under the military industrial complex. So once Elon Musk started getting very close to the government, this is what happens. Then it's okay for them to do that. It's okay for them, Justice Department just kind of writes this thing. There are probably concerns. The citizens are probably right. NAACP is probably right to some degree as well, but it's going to get blocked by Justice Department, and it is what it is there. So I don't like it personally, but this political shenanigans, that's what happens. Smart on Elon Musk to protect himself politically as well to get cover. So yeah, it's smart on him. And I don't like it, but it's smart on him to do that. Okay, AI token costs spiral as companies face tokenomics crunch. TechBuzz article. Silicon Valley firms reveal surging AI token bills are facing hard choices on deployment. So what insiders are calling pretty crazy token consumption patterns that are forcing executives to rethink their AI-first strategies. So basically, People are just going crazy on tokens. They're just spending it like confetti. A single complex customer service interaction might consume thousands of tokens. Multiply that across millions of daily interactions, and what looked like a competitive advantage starts looking like a budget crisis. Yeah. Irene isn't lost on anyone. AI was supposed to reduce costs through automation, but instead it's creating a new category of operational expense that many companies weren't prepared for. My view on this is, yeah, we just have to be a little bit smarter on spending. I think there will be, fundamental wars on pricing, right? We've ever heard, I think Google is giving more cheaper package for tokens. We're going to see a war in tokens. But yeah, these companies are not profitable, right? But it's a rush to the internet. So I kind of see it's the same kind of dynamic as when the internet first started, right? Rush to give you free packages. You could use the internet freely as well back then. And then they started introducing caps. So it's kind of same dynamics. Will be competition and price wars to get that down. And but it's here to stay. People just have to budget things in and not spend so much. That's fine. It is much ado about nothing. People will adjust over time, and we'll get to a rational equilibrium equilibrium on actually token usage. Okay, the role of automation in modern marketing campaigns. Everybody uses this. Tech Buzz. Explore how marketing automation has evolved into the AI-powered engine behind modern campaigns. Marketing automation has crossed a threshold. At least 81% of marketing businesses use automation tools in some capacity, which we have as well. So personalization at scale makes this possible with AI generated creative in the automation stack. We were looking at that as well yesterday. 2/3 of marketers use AI for content creation. It's AI generated videos, it's voiceover tools, it's images, and that's kind of why, when we post images on Instagram, when I said AI generated, I had to actually look into the fine print because I was just saying, well, look, almost everything's AI generated, right? If it's not the images, if it's not me, if it's not voice, and even if it is me on my voice, it's AI enhanced. It's my images are AI enhanced. So it's all AI. AI is going to be like the internet, which we somewhat predicted anyway. So where does that lead us? Everybody uses this, but judgment and decision making is still going to prevail, right? So how do you use AI tools? Where does the buck stop? Where does it become entirely AI driven and not creative? These are things that still need to be defined. And I would posit that these are actually real human endeavors and needs to have a human touch. And it's not simply just AI. So I think there is some skill and art to AI usage, and that's really kind of where the future will be defined. It's not the fact that you're using AI, not using AI. It's where you use AI, how you use AI, to make sure that it is good content. At the end of the day, good content, good marketing is the litmus test. That is the barometer. AI is constant. You will be using AI 100%. It's just how much, that will be the definition. Okay. Alibaba debuts suite of AI models for robots. China is really all about usage of AI and hardware. That's really the core of things. So payments article, that's a PYMNTS. And they've unveiled artificial models. The Chiwin robot suite comes as AI companies shift away from chatbots into physical AI. And yeah, hopefully I will actually, it doesn't really say, it does say some things here, but it's just with robots, it's just better to see, right? Rather than read. Lastly, human robot Manip, quote, turns heterogeneous robot data into a coherent canonical space, enabling cross-embodiment training at scale, unquote. Quote, together they enable an agentic system where general intelligence translates directly into physical action, unquote. So, hopefully in the next phase, when we start doing these broadcasts, we'll actually show more of these robots as well, because I think that's immensely interesting in the realm of AI, and not many people can cover this angle, and I think I can. So there we go. That's a bit of a preview into what we're actually moving towards. Okay, Android 17 launches with new multitasking tools as Google expands Gemini features. I'm starting to like Gemini more and more. Nano Banana is great with video, so very cool. There's a TechCrunch article. On Tuesday, released a final version of its Android 17 operating system, as well as its counterpart for smartwatches, Wear OS 7. It's also, which is right, this release arrives first on its own Pixel devices, accompanied by Pixel Drop. It underscores Google's strategy of using its Android and Pixel devices to showcase its latest AI technology. I used to have a Pixel and worked with kind of its version of Siri. I forgot what it was. And yeah, that's right. I've noticed Pixel is kind of the forefront of where things are. Great. Okay. I don't know much about it. I'm not really an Android person or a Google phone person. So if you do have one, let us know in the comment section below what you think about it. How do you think about Google's AI in general? And what do you think about this release? And is it really pushing the agenda forward? Okay, on to the next section. We should have our trending tools. We've got for today. We've got Wondershare Recovered, enterprise-grade file restoration. Engine driven by advanced data carving algorithms. It bypasses file system corruption to reconstruct lost deleted format files from SSDs, SD cards, and complex NAS arrays with a 99.5% success rate. I should actually look into that. I've got a hard drive that doesn't work, so this might actually be good. But I wonder how it does that, because basically it doesn't even read the drive. For native messenger deployment, Botrion is a specialized chat architecture built for cross-platform bot creation and audience monetization. Creators can deploy emotionally intelligent companions, roleplay characters, or utility assistants straight into Telegram. Cool. For prompt-driven document handling, PDF.net is a comprehensive browser-based PDF workspace powered by LLM integration and lets you generate professional invoices, contracts, or resumes from text prompts. Very cool. And finally, we've got algorithmic nutrition logistics, something for health. Meal Planner Pro is a multi-profile nutritional planner optimized for home operations. The platform analyzes individual biometric profiles and dietary restrictions across a family unit to output automated weekly recipe splits. Very cool. Let us know, and please experiment with these tools and let us know what you think in the comments section below, because then we can all be beneficiaries of your knowledge on what works and what doesn't. Okay, all right. Finally, we've got how to write a book. We've got the AI workout of the day, how to write a book with AI as your creative partner. I've done that. I've written 3 books, and I've definitely done that, and I know what it takes. So it says, start with a clear vision, know your audience, choose a chapter count, ask for what you need, and treat it like a real collaboration. And that's generally kind of the structure. And then we've got a prompt for you as well. So let me kind of take a step back and really just talk a little bit more about that. I think we're writing a book. It is tough to do with AI. I've used lots of AI tools. I don't think any of the AI tools are actually particularly good as of this moment. And that just really speaks to actually how writing a book is a real creative endeavor, and it really requires human touch. And yeah, just requires great human touch to be able to do that. So I don't think it's anything that's wrong. I think it's inherently challenging to write a book. And then let me kind of go and explore deeper into that as well. Why does it create that? Because writing a book is really about writing one piece and then coming back to it and amending that and amending different sections. And it needs to form a coherent whole in a book. And that's not necessarily easy when you're talking about multiple chapters, 200-300 pages in a book. And I don't think AI does very well in doing that. It gives you outputs chapters by chapters, but it doesn't recognize those changes, and it doesn't go back to the original chapter, and you have to do that yourself. So inherent in the difficulty of doing that, what I found is it's great for planning a storyline, a general arc, and it's great to be able to reiterate that back and forth and over. But the writing part, and you can even start off a chapter with writing the book with AI, but I do think very quickly you start going into that chapter with that human touch and writing the rest of the chapter, and then amending those chapters as you see fit, depending on the arc and how things change. Writing a book, there's a lot of back and forth. I wrote iLeader, at least 10 times. I remember going to Vancouver to see my father, and I wrote it one particular way on the plane because I do very well on the plane. I'm quite productive on the plane, and I didn't like that version. And then whilst I was jet lagged in Vancouver, I wrote it a different way as well. So I was there 3 a.m. just typing away because I thought that was a better format. So writing a book is the same content. It's one content just done so many different ways. Um, it's the same ideas. It's the same. I won't say presentation. It's the presentation that makes it different. And it's writing a book is really about that, the presentation and how do you do it in a way that makes it palatable, makes it unique to you, and incorporates your story arc a little bit better than other people's. So I find writing a book using prompts, you can write very simplistic, books, right? Maybe a storybook is okay, a children's storybook, a nonfiction book is much more okay on AI. If it's like a short story, it works very well in AI. But if you're writing something with any complexity, it is a human endeavor, and it requires that conversation overall. And I do think inherently this is a good thing. I think with AI, things are too easy. Writing a book, I'm glad, is one of the last bastions of human creativity and endeavor, and it should remain so. And I think to support artists and authors that write these books because it does create, it comes from a uniquely human place. And I think as we go deeper into the age of AI, I think that's even more incredibly important to support human creative endeavors like that. Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed our broadcast. We went through all this very quickly today, I feel, and that can be a good thing. We don't necessarily want to overdrag our broadcasts. We just want to give you relevant news. Again, thank you to all our subscribers for everything. We appreciate it. Again, we will pause. Tomorrow's broadcast will be the last one, and we'll pause for 2 weeks. I'm very excited on where we stand going forward. And yeah, see you in tomorrow's broadcast.